Absolutely no idea. I think I've got the best job in government. New York City has a structure where the mayor working with the city council can really make a difference. I believe that city government is much more appealing than national government. National government, you redistribute wealth, you put some laws in, but city government, you make decisions and implement things and can create things. And I'll never have another job in government that would, there's no other job that would be anywhere near as exciting as the one I have. And nobody's going to offer me one either, incidentally. So 12 years is enough in government. This is my third career. The first two worked out okay. I've looked forward to going into work every single day, every job I've ever had. And I'll find something else to do. We'll see.
Okay, this gentleman over there. Yes, please.
Hi, my name is Tomohisa Miyauchi, coming from Tokyo, representing Architecture and Urbanism magazine.
Architecture and what magazine?
Urbanism magazine, FSC magazine. And in the cities, if you compare Singapore and New York, that I see that New York being the capital of the world in 20th century. If you were to say the Singapore as the capital of the 21st century, trying to foster creativities and new industries, attracting influx of people coming in and out, what do you think is the important key elements that Singapore could foster certain creativity and more attraction to the world around?
Well, cities are becoming more competitive. Every city has to offer what every other city has. That doesn't mean that every person in every city has to be global and have a perspective of the world. There's lots of people that do their jobs in their neighborhoods. They do one thing, they do it well, and they are what makes society society. But if you are going to have a world-class city, one of the most important things I've always thought is you have to be family-friendly. If you can't bring your family, you're not going to go to work there. Companies have to be able to attract people from around the world. There's just too much talent around the world. You can't just do it with people native to your city. So family-friendly means low crime. It means great cultural institutions. For the business world, speaking English is a very big advantage. Because there aren't that many people that are going to learn another language. I've struggled at age 70 with Spanish. I spent most of the time on a plane coming over here working on my past subjunctive. It's just very hard. People don't learn other languages quickly. And so having a city that is able to attract the best and the brightest in a world where intellectual capital is becoming more important gives them a real advantage over other cities. But I think also good government, people being happy. When you go down the street, I always look to see if people are smiling. You really can tell the difference. In some cities, people are not happy. In some cities, they are. You want to see are people proud of their city? Are they happy there? Do they want their kids to grow up there? And there are sadly many cities that don't have a future because that's not true. And you see those cities hollow out. There's nothing magical about cities. There are plenty of cities in America that have lost very significant percentages of their population, half or more in some cases. And it's really hard to see how they recover. The ways to do so is very controversial. You have to cut your expenses. You have to walk away from some of the old beliefs and the old traditions. You have to bring in outsiders. All those things are hard to do. They require a level of leadership that sadly most cities that are down on their luck aren't about to have and provide. Every once in a while somebody breaks out and comes back. And I've always thought Bill Ballard, it's interesting, he gave him an award. I've always thought the city council that built that museum, it's just inconceivable that a small city would take a risk like that, and yet they did, and it changed the world. But most of us don't get opportunities that where one decision can do that.
Okay, we have supposed to wind up now. One quick last question. Anybody? Okay.
Thanks for having me. Mayor Bloomberg, my name is Robin. I'm from the Straits Times as well. Just a quick question. You spoke about the future of the financial industry. And I was wondering if you're concerned that the center of financial activity is shifting increasingly to Asia. And for example, with increased regulation in the US, are you concerned that more talented financial professionals are choosing cities like Singapore over New York? How do you stem that flow, if that is the case?
I came into the securities business in 1966. The number of times I've seen perpetual motion invented is legion. The number of times I've seen big companies can't survive, it's only small companies that can. The number of small companies can't survive, it's only big companies. We go through all these cycles. Regulation cuts both ways. It can be a disincentive, but also people want to have confidence that the financial statements mean something, that the marketplaces are fair, and I think the challenge for governments is to find a balance. I don't think we found a balance with Dodd-Frank, which is our biggest new security law, but that will get worked out. I think that the big cities, the big financial centers, will probably remain the big financial centers. Singapore has been a financial powerhouse from the time I came here. And one of the things Singapore has going for it is the competition from Tokyo and from Hong Kong and from Sydney. Because without competition, Singapore would just sit back and don't do anything. And this way, Singapore has to go out and fight every single day. And that's what keeps the city going. And it should give the people of Singapore some ray of hope that they're not going to be left behind. And because those other three cities are going to fight them to be the financial center of this part of the world. And competition is good. It's not easy, and there are always going to be losers, but if the people that get served by an industry, they're the great beneficiaries of competition, and you're going to continue to have that here. And you just have to take a look at the building here. Every time I come to Singapore, there's new land, there's new buildings, there's new industries. This is a city, but you can say the same thing. Go to Hong Kong, and you're going to see exactly the same thing, a desire to win, a desire to change with the times, a desire to be open. Sydney and Tokyo, the same thing.
So before we close, do you have any other thoughts you want to share? Any other big message?
No, I just, New York, number one, it really is honored to be recognized. Number two, I think all of us see the problems in our own cities and forget that there are problems in other cities. It's easy to be depressed, but the future is for those that look at the glass being half full rather than half empty. And all of the technology is going to make your product more saleable to give you a bigger market. But it's also going to mean the same thing for the other person's product as well, so it gets more competitive. The great beneficiaries are the consumers. And the consumers, unfortunately, are seldom organized. And the danger is that the entrenched industries or groups of people try to stop progress because they would be either lose their jobs or have to get retrained or maybe work in a different place or at a different salary level. And we tend to forget what's good in our societies and only focus on what's good in other societies and bemoan the fact that we don't have that. New York is very different than Singapore. We have many things in common, but it's different. What works in Singapore won't necessarily work in New York, and what works in New York won't necessarily work in Singapore. But what is true is both of us can look at what goes on in the other place and see whether there isn't that or a variation on those themes that we could adapt. And cities that are open and adaptable will be the winners.
Now, before closing, let me also